All right, we are continuing in the book of Shakhsiyatul Muslim. Getting my letters confused there. And in the ideal Muslim of building the ideal Muslim character. And we're in this chapter on the Muslim and his children. Interestingly, I want to share something I heard today. I was listening to a workshop, and it had something to do with children, not directly, but there was a sister with who does counseling. She does marital counseling, and she said somebody came to her a long time ago, and this person was a learned person, like maybe imam in the community or an elder, respected person in the community, and his son started going off to the wrong path, started doing things that were not becoming of a Muslim. And so, and he was really bothered by that. So he came to this sister who was a psychologist to get some advice. And so he told her the story, and she said to him, she says, wow, you must feel guilty about it. You must feel guilty that your son, he's doing this kind of stuff. And this imam, this brother, he looked at the sister, he says, no, I don't feel guilty. He said, no, I don't feel guilty. Why do you think he said, I don't feel guilty? Do you understand the situation? You want me to explain it again, or should I explain it again? Yeah. So here's an imam, or let's just say respected person, imam in the community. His son starts doing haram things. Okay, we don't need to say what kind of haram things, but going off to the wrong path. Okay, and so he tries to bring him back and he's not. He's getting further and further, and so he goes to this sister who's a psychologist, who's a counselor, for some advice. So she listens to his story, and she says, wow, you must feel guilty about what's happening, like it's your fault. And he says, no, I don't feel guilty. Why do you think he said that? Yes? Good. What else? I'll repeat that. I want to hear from some other people. Yeah. So that's the simple answer is, he fulfilled his responsibility as a father. Guidance, hidayah is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And no matter what your role, whether you're imam or sheikh or scholar or teacher or professor, it doesn't matter. Right? You're not better than the prophets. Right? The prophets whose children were non-Muslim, whose parents were non-Muslim, despite them getting da'wah from a prophet. Imagine getting da'wah directly from a prophet, right? And not accepting Islam. So who are we? So, I just heard it today, and it reminded me of the chapter that we're on, that, we feel like, we have a lot of responsibility, and we do. It's just, at the end of the day, you're going to stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you're going to answer about your responsibility. You're not going to answer about the results. And this is the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is that you're going to answer, you're going to show Him your efforts. And that's what you have to answer for, is have you fulfilled your responsibility? And after that, whatever the results are, the results are. And we have husn al-dhan in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we have good thoughts about Allah, that He will guide our children and keep them on the straight path. But you never know what's going to happen. And this is why you shouldn't look at somebody and say, oh, look at what so-and-so, what their kids are doing. And try to make that person look like a bad father or bad mother, bad parents. Look what their kids are doing. It's none of your business what they're doing. Focus on your kids. Right? And so in the next chapter, actually in the next section in that same chapter, the Shaykh, he talks about, he continues on talking about spending on your children. Right? We started talking about that last time, and he said, what you spend on your spouse, what you spend on your wife is sadaqah. Like literally, you take her out to eat, that's sadaqah. You could put that money in the masjid, you could put it in the to go out to eat, your reward is the same. Right? So think of it that way. Right? So don't be cheap and stingy in these affairs. But at the same time, don't be extravagant either. Don't be extravagant either, because a lot of times we think that money is the answer. We think an expensive gift is the answer. We're like, oh, my son, he's getting away from me. He doesn't want to listen to me. You know what? I know. I'm going to get him a new phone. Right? It's not gonna do anything. So you get a smaller child, you get them a toy, they'll play with it for a while, and then they'll stop playing with it. So these kinds of things. So it's really your time, your energy that you spend with them. And then he says that you do not discriminate between sons and daughters. Don't discriminate between sons and daughters. And I used to think when I was younger, before I was married, as a youth, and I would listen to lectures and halaqat, and I would think that this was only like a culture like medieval cultures, and even like other countries in like poor areas, this kind of thought process happens, that we want sons and not daughters. This happens everywhere. Even in the most civilized societies, it happens. So subhanAllah, it's children are children. They're blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But and I used to hear when I was younger as a youth, attending halaqat before I was married, I would hear like a shaykh or somebody from the community say like daughters are very precious. Daughters are a blessing. And I didn't have any kids, so I couldn't understand the that saying. Like, what does it really feel like to have a daughter, right? And until you have it yourself, right? Not when they're like really, really young, but as they're growing, like the blessing that you feel of having a daughter, I think is definitely different. I can't say better than having a son, but it's definitely different and something unique that the Prophet ﷺ also told us about the virtues of that. And he says in one hadith, and the Shaykh actually mentioned that in the khutbah, I think last week, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, whoever has 3 daughters and is patient with them, gives them food and drink and clothing, and clothes them from his earnings, they will be for him a shield against the fire on the day of resurrection. And another narration, he said, so here in this hadith he's talking about is a shield from the fire. In the next hadith he's saying they are basically taking you to paradise. So he says, whoever has 3 daughters and shelters them, provides what they need and shows compassion towards them, will certainly deserve paradise. And a man asked, Ya Rasulullah, how about if there are 2? It's 2 daughters. Maybe he just had 2 daughters, he didn't have 3. And he says, yes, even if there are 2. And then, the Shaykh, he says, Islam, this practical religion which recognizes the realities of people's lives. Think about somebody, think about a daughter, who for some reason doesn't get married, or is getting older and isn't married yet, or got married and got divorced and came back to her parents' house, right? And now this father, who was young and healthy and providing, and now maybe he's older. Maybe he can't provide as much, right? So, sometimes, and this is why, you think about this hadith and you're like, why so much preference for the daughter and just mentioning the daughter? Because there's so many scenarios that you can think of, right? Especially this, of a divorced woman coming back to live with her parents. And this is the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in this beautiful system that He created, He protected the woman all the time, right? She's protected all the time. And so if she leaves one home, she has another home to go to, right? She isn't homeless. But in that, there comes challenges. Now here's a grown woman who was running her home, or her whatever, her family, and now comes back and now has to deal with the rules and the regulations of her parents' homes. It's a tough situation, right? And this is, again, if you look at the wording of his statement, and he says, whoever has 3 daughters and shelters them and provides what they need and shows compassion towards them. Like if you listen to all of the words, and then you think about these different scenarios, like you get to feel like the Prophet ﷺ was actually almost prophesizing these different kinds of scenarios. where you have to feel that compassion towards someone else, right? How even though they're your own children, they're your own daughters. And so it's this system that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created, and the Shaykh, he says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this religion, this perfect system, recognizes the realities of all of these situations. And we know that somebody, if they were to come back to live with their parents, it would be a very difficult situation. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is telling them that you're patient with them and you provide for them and you show compassion to them, that Jannah is your destination. And then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, shall I not tell you about the greatest form of charity? He said, yes, of course. He says, your daughter who has come back to you and has no other breadwinner. So, very, very direct, right? Straight to the point. And then the next thing he talks about, and this we probably are not going to get to cover all of it because this is such an important section, but I started off with this paragraph because I want you to think about it, and I want you to think about your involvement in your own children's lives when it comes to this perspective. So he says that the Muslim parent keeps his eyes open as far as the children are concerned. He knows what they are reading and writing. He knows what they're reading and writing. He knows what they're reading and writing. And you could say he knows what they're looking at, right? Whether it's on the TV or on a screen or in a book or in a magazine. He knows what they're reading and writing, the hobbies they have chosen or which may have been encouraged them to follow without them realizing it, the friends with whom he spends most of their time, and the places they go in their spare time. He knows all of this without his children feeling that they're being watched. If he finds anything objectionable in their reading material or their hobbies, or finds that they're hanging out with the wrong people, undesirable friends, is going to unsuitable places, taking up bad habits like smoking or wasting time or energy or in haram things, haram games, trivialities and idle pursuits, he puts them straight in a gentle and wise manner. Now, so think about, I want you to think about your hobby, your children, and what they love to do. If you don't know what they love to do, that's a problem on its own. That's a problem. And I realized this, a few years ago, this brother, he asked me, he says, my daughter is 8, you have an 8-year-old. What does your 8-year-old love to do? And I thought about it. I said, I don't know what she loves to do. So, and then I made it my habit to know what my children, what they like. I don't know all the things that they like, but you have to know what they like. Because if you want to talk to them, you have to talk to them about those things that they like. So if you say, my children don't want to talk to me, it's because you don't know what to talk to them about. It's because you didn't make the effort to learn what matters to them. So think about this, and we're going to delve into this further. He says, the books that the children read, and these are the books, this is the education you should be providing them to broaden their minds and build their personalities. Broaden their minds and build their personalities, and giving them good examples to follow. And then he talks about hobbies, and we'll close there. And this is what I want you to think about. Maybe just give some suggestions. What are good hobbies? What are good hobbies to have? What do you think? Playing basketball? What do you guys think? Yes. Sporting? Good. What else? Yes. Reading books? Very good. Coming to the masjid? Okay. What else? Reading Quran? What are other hobbies? Huh? Hiking? Very good. Hiking. What's the problem? You know why nobody likes hiking? It's because you can't hike and look at your phone at the same time. That's why people don't like hiking. And here's what, and we'll close with this. Yeah. You know why parents, when you see your child sitting there, right, doing nothing, they're just doing nothing. Maybe they're playing on the carpet, they're making circles or something. You're like, Ahmed, why are you sitting there? Just doing nothing. Go read a book. Right? Go do some math problems. Go do something. Go anything. Go do something. It's a horrible idea. Horrible idea. But we do. Parents do it all the time because we think that reading a book is the way to spend your time. No. You know when you get the most creative ideas? When you're bored. This is how the mind works. I mean, I can give you details, but you guys will be bored. But I will tell you, the way to have creative ideas is to be bored. In other words, don't have entertainment. Don't have a phone, don't have a book, don't have anything in front of you, just sit there. That's why hiking is so good, running is so good, biking is so good, because you're not distracted by anything. You know, if we go running, what do? It's the first thing we get. Our headphones. We plug them in, so start listening to something, get distracted. No, run without anything. Right? Be bored. That's where creativity comes from. You know, some of the most innovative people, creative people, some of the most successful, effective leaders in the world, in the history, you know, if they wanted to solve a problem, they would say, I'm going to go for a jog. I'm going to go for a jog. Why? Because, you know, your blood is flowing and your mind is only occupied with solving that problem. And you're going to get the solution like that. But when we stay engaged in something all the time, our mind doesn't have time to process other things. It just has time to deal with what you're reading or what you're being entertained with. So think about hobbies and what kind of hobbies your children are into, what kind of hobbies you like, and think about, how much, what is the gap between you and your children? You might be here, they might be here, totally different wavelengths, right? And so start thinking about this. And that's why, parenting, and the same thing with marriages, is an active work. It's not just passive. It's not the lack of fighting is not a successful marriage. Lack of fighting is not a successful marriage. Only a successful marriage is a successful marriage. And that requires work. Same thing with children, right? Just because your children don't disobey you, or they don't fight with each other, that doesn't mean that they're good necessarily they're going to be good kids. And so, or that you're doing good parenting. And so try to align your interests. So think about these things as you leave. What are the hobbies? What are the things that they like to do? And how well I am aware of the things that they like to do. So with that, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive our shortcomings and accept all the good that we do. Jazakumullahu khairan wa assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.